Woo, Chile. Guys, we are back with another Justice and Verdicts and Views. How are we doing? Let's do a little mental health check. June is in full swing, and I'm just excited to be here with what a week in the WNBA. I think I say that every week that we start this conversation. What a week. But honestly, it feels like that every week. I'll say it again and I'll over and over again. If it's not one thing, it is another. I have to continue to remind myself that even bad publicity is good publicity. That if they're talking about us, at least they're talking, because I be fighting with trolls left and right. I be fighting with trolls. I be defending the WNBA's good name, because sometimes we center focus on those and we get distracted about all the good that is taking place within the WNBA, all the phenomenal basketball that is happening, all the great stories from players that are happening. There's so much good and excitement happening in the WNBA, and I'm just excited that I get to use this platform to have those conversations and share that information with you. Because hey, if you're only getting your information off of Twitter and Instagram, you would think that the WNBA is in disarray, when honestly this is the best basketball being played right now. This is the most exciting basketball being played right now. There are so many phenomenal stories going on, and that's what we need to be focusing on. So I'm just excited to utilize this platform and this opportunity to do just that. So without further ado, let's dive in. Well, let's kick off the video like we always do with a little bit of league lowdown. What is the tea? What are the girls talking about? What is the hot goss? What went down in the WNBA this week? Well, to start off with, the WNBA announced that the Detroit Pistons are interested in bringing a team back to Detroit. Now, if you're new here and you're unfamiliar with a little bit of WNBA history, this would not be the first time that Detroit had a team. Hence why I said bring a team back to Detroit. Detroit used to have a team called the Detroit Shock. Now, y'all already know I love a little WNBA history, so let's talk about the Detroit Shock real quickly. Now, the Detroit Shock joined the WNBA as an expansion team in 1998. Now, they didn't have a lot of success when they first joined the league. They hired Bill Lambier, who really turned around the organization. They brought in a bunch of new players, and hey, they hit the ground running. The Detroit Shock was able to bring home 3 championships back to Detroit in 2003, 2006, and 2008. Like, they are one of the more popular original franchises. When we start talking about expansion, when we start talking about, Kathy's bringing new teams, everyone's talking about bring back the Charlotte Sting, bring back the Houston Comets, and always people are saying bring back the Detroit Shock. Now, unfortunately, it may bring a team to Detroit, but it will not be the Detroit Shock, because Ryan Reed said, no sirree, Bob, I own the rights to that name, the Detroit Shock, and you guys won't be using it. Now, Ryan owns the WBL. Now, before this, I had never heard of the WBL. It stands for the Women's Basketball League, which is supposed to be similar to the G League. Again, I didn't even know we had one of those. I didn't even know one of those existed. I went to their website. There's not a lot of information. They got like the teams listed, but like obviously it's not a league that is off the ground yet, but they are supposed to be equivalent to what the G League is. Basically, Ryan also bought not only the Detroit Shock, but a couple of other original WNBA franchise names. And he says that, yeah, the Detroit Shock is the name of one of our teams that we are going to have. So if y'all do end up bringing a team to Detroit, you better come up with a name on your own, because it won't be the Detroit Shock. So although there obviously is a lot of excitement around potentially bringing a team back to Detroit, what are the odds of this actually happening? I'm not quite sure. It seems like Kathy is very, very, very strategic and intentional about how she is handling this expansion and the teams that they're adding into the WNBA. It seems like, historically the WNBA has been in situations where we kind of bit off more that we can chew at one time when it comes to expansion, and it ends up that teams end up folding because of lack of support, lack of resources, lack of fan base, the whole nine. So she's very, very intentional, making sure that the cities that they bring these new teams, it is 100% sure that they will be successful and be able to stay above water. So in the end, what are the odds that they end up bringing a team back to Detroit? Yeah, I'm not quite sure, but it is exciting to know that obviously there's some interest. Obviously there's some conversation as the WBA continues to grow. As Kathy says, her phone continues to ring with people being interested in bringing franchises to the WBA. So even if they do not become a team, at least the conversation is being had, and it just shows that the league is growing, that the interest is growing, and that potentially we're on the right track to hit that sweet spot of having 16 teams. In other news, similar to bringing, again, new opportunities to women's basketball and expanding, Napheesa Collier and Stewie announced that, hey, we're also bringing in a new league. Now, Stewie and Napheesa had brought this up, I think, like a year and a half ago, but we really hadn't heard any update information about that league. It was funny, literally maybe a couple weeks ago, I had seen a tweet of somebody saying, like, whatever happened to that league that Stewie and Napheesa were starting? Like, we haven't heard nothing about that. And then 2 weeks later, boom, they come out with the announcement basically saying that a new 3-on-3 league called Unrivaled will launch in January of 2025. Now, this is exciting because it is another opportunity for players to not have to go overseas to, again, continue to make that extra money. Until the WNBA, we get to the point where we are able to pay, players more. Right now, players are having to go overseas because that's where the money is. But the WNBA actually incorporated this new prioritization rule, basically making it very difficult for WNBA players to go overseas because WNBA is saying basically like, hey, you need to prioritize the WNBA. So that rule has really threw a wrench into players' ability to go overseas. So that was one of the reasons that Napheesa and Stewie say they are excited to bring Unrivaled as another opportunity where players now do not have to go overseas. A couple cool things about Unrivaled compared to, say, the WNBA is Stewie and Napheesa announced that Unrivaled will have the highest salary available to women's basketball here in the States professionally, as well as offering the ability for the players to have equity within the company, which right now they do not have that opportunity in the WNBA. Now, Stewie and Napheesa, I think they have done their due diligence in terms of investors who have, put some money within the company. Ashton Kutcher, Carmelo Anthony, Megan Rapinoe, Alex Morgan, Steve Nash, and then they even got Gino, which is not surprised because Napheesa and Stewie both went to UConn, so it's only right that Gino is a investor within the league. So I obviously have a couple questions regarding how this is all going to go down in terms of execution, but the details that they have provided to us is that there will be 30 players. And it'll be in a 3-on-3 type league. It'll be in a condensed court. Then there'll be 6 players per team. And then the competition will be held in Miami for 10 weeks. So questions I already have in my mind are just in terms of, since it's a 3-on-3 style, will you be able to pick your team? Or how are they deciphering about who gets to play in this league and who doesn't? Especially if they're offering like big time salaries. I just imagine that they are being very strategic about who they are inviting to participate in this league. They said they already have some all-star names who are interested, especially that it's being spearheaded by Napheesa and Stewie, who again are some of the top players in the WNBA currently. I just assume that they have some heavy hitters already to participate in the league. So right now there are a couple of different options available for players who are not a couple. Well, there's one option available right now in terms of players who don't want to go overseas and want to play professionally here in the States during the off season, and that is Athletes Unlimited. But right now the way Athletes Unlimited is operating, the players who typically are participating in Athletes Unlimited are not your first team, second team WNBA. It's more of your role players. It's more of people who are trying to get into the WNBA, maybe who have gotten waived and are trying to get some experience. I'm just assuming that Napheesa and Stewie's league is going to be more geared towards our larger name WNBA player, your Asia Wilsons, your JJs, your Skylar Diggins, your Jewel Lloyds, your Chelsea Grays, Kelsey Plums. So I think that's just going to be the difference in the two leagues in terms of the type of talent that are going to be participating. And to wrap up the league lowdown, we got to talk about the team that just seems like every week is in the center of conversation. If it's not one thing, it is another, because if anybody is going to be breaking news, it is going to be the Las Vegas Aces. So last Sunday, they announced that they ended up waiving Deasia Fair, sent people in a spiral. No one saw it coming. It was shocking. But if you have been paying attention, like I said in my previous video, there was writing on the walls. The Aces have been struggling defensively. We don't know when Chelsea Gray is coming back. Jackie's playing the full game, and Deasia was struggling apparently when it comes to some defensive concepts. So they end up waiving her, and we knew that they would be bringing in a point guard with a knack for defense. The Aces did what the Aces do and threw everybody for a whirl, keeping us on our toes, and they announced that they would be bringing back out of retirement Tiffany Hayes. Nobody saw that coming. Leave it to the aces to, again, send shockwaves to the WNBA. If aces are anything, they are expect the unexpected, babes. That while we continue to play checkers, the aces are playing chess. If you're new here, you are probably not familiar with Tiffany Hayes, but let me fill you in on who the aces have added to their roster. Tiffany Hayes is an 11-year vet coming out of UConn. She was drafted in 2012 with the 14th pick to the Atlanta Dream, where she spent her first 10 seasons in the WNBA, and then she spent her last season with Connecticut. Tiffany easily supersedes any suggestion of player that I had in my mind to the aces to add. Like, this is literally, if you had the cream of the crop about who we need to bring in or who potentially we could bring in, yeah, Tiffany is at the top of that list, honestly. We didn't even know, though, she was an option because, again, she had retired after concluding that last season with Connecticut. But again, Becky is always going to do her big one. And in fact, she did just that. I know Becky got me sitting around like, Becky, girl, how do you continue to do this? Like, literally, y'all announced that y'all bringing in Tiffany Hayes. I know the GM's on Kathy's line, like, you have to do something about the aces. When they're looking about who can we bring in to make an impact. But let me just call Tiffany Hayes, see if she's ready to come out of retirement, and boom, just like that. Basically, Tiffany is a tough-nosed guard. She can play both ends of the floor. She can get a bucket. She also has the capabilities to play point guard, but also can play the off guard and the shooting guard. All in all, she is literally exactly what the aces need. Right now, the aces lack a little bit of depth on bench. They lack a little bit of consistent scoring from that second line. So Tiffany coming in and being able to fill that role. I think personally, the most thing I'm excited about what Tiffany's bringing to the aces is just her ability to score. She averaged double figures every season except one when she was in the league before she retired. She also, with Connecticut last season, averaged 12 points, 3 rebounds, and 2.6 assists. She made first team WNBA in 2018. She was an all-star in 2017. So again, we're bringing in a player who has experience, who has versatility, who can come in and make an immediate impact on the team. Tiffany coming in is going to vastly take a large load off of Jackie. And if I'm the other teams, I'm just looking around like, again, the aces are doing it again. If it's not one thing, it's another with the Las Vegas Aces. They continue to play chess while we are sitting around playing checkers. So if you're wondering what this means for the Las Vegas Aces, this just makes them incredibly dangerous. And if you didn't think that they were dangerous before, trust me, you think it now. So let's move on. Let's do our rookie review and ruling. This week, I'm so proud of our rookies, honestly. I am. And I'm proud of our rookies who, one, maybe, I know for the last couple of weeks, we've talked about our cams. We've talked about our angels. We talk about, our players who are right now playing large minutes in big roles within their team and putting up those large stats. I'm this week excited to focus on the rookies who have weathered the storm, got their opportunity, and have shined. One, starting off with Kate Martin. Listen, I can admit when I'm wrong. You know what I mean? I'm not always right. I'm usually right, but I'm not always right. And when it comes to Kate Martin, maybe originally I did not see the vision. I am so sorry, Kate. I did not see the vision. But just like the Lord says, I was blind, but now I see. I see it. Seeing Kate Martin flourish with the Las Vegas Aces is probably one of the most rewarding things to witness. In our defense with Iowa, a lot of times, especially if you weren't tapped into watching their games consistently, the media pushed a narrative that it was Caitlin Clark in Iowa, that everybody was a role player, that it was Caitlin's show and everybody else kind of just was strung along, that she didn't have any big name players coming along with her. Now, they called her the glue and things of that nature, but it was definitely giving Batman or, main character and then or her supporting cast. What I love to see with the Aces is that Kate has come into her own, that she is able to spread her wings and fly and flourish in an environment where she gets to be the main character. And, Kate right now is maybe the first person off the bench. She's logging almost 20 minutes. Listen, that girl, she's going to run into the corner and she's going to sit there with her feet set, ready to get that three. Like, she knows her role. She is smart. Like, Becky has nothing but positive things to say about her. She has won her teammates over. Like, you can tell that they have completely embraced her. You can tell that they enjoy having her around. Like, you see content that's being pushed out by the Las Vegas Aces, and it just looks like she is flourishing. And I just think that is just the most rewarding things to see. So I definitely had to give her flowers. I definitely had to give her kudos. And I love when people prove doubters. I love when people prove people who maybe didn't understand or see the vision to begin with wrong. There's nothing better than getting your lick back. And I respect a good I told you so. Next on my rookie review, I have to give my shout out to Alissa Pili. Listen, up until this point, Alissa hadn't been playing major minutes with the Minnesota Lynx, especially compared to other players such as Cam, such as Angel. But the biggest thing when it comes to you when you're not logging lots of minutes, when you don't have a big role with your team, it's being ready when your number is called. People will say that over and over and over. You got to stay ready. You got to be ready when your name is called. And this week when Alissa's number was called, she was ready. Against the Phoenix Mercury, she went in 15 minutes. She ended up having 20 points, 4 rebounds, and definitely made the most out of the opportunity that she was presented with. I'll be honest, you guys, on these well-established teams, it is hard sometimes to get in rotation. It really is. So I'm just eager to see if the success Alissa was able to have against Phoenix, if that is just going to give Cheryl more confidence to put her in games moving forward. Only time will tell. Like I said, they were blowing out Phoenix at the time, but your ability to produce 20 points in 15 minutes, to make the most of the opportunity that was presented to you, and that although they were blowing out Phoenix, Phoenix still had third best players in the game. So obviously you're able to score against people's starters, essentially. So just curious to see if Cheryl will build on the success Alissa was able to have this week and continue to give her opportunities to play and work her way into the Lynx rotation. So who was our rookie ruling for the week? Honestly, guys, you already know. I could sit here and make a case for almost every rookie about why they potentially could be the rookie ruling for the week. Honestly, it almost just too easy. Like, constantly, they are doing tremendous things every week. Angel leading the WNBA in offensive rebounds. Caitlin putting up and averaging, and she was the WNBA's rookie of the month. We got Alissa, we got Kate, we got Rakia, we got Kim. Like, there's so many phenomenal players doing phenomenal things right now in the WNBA that I could talk about. But despite all of that, I just could not shy away from the fact that the rookie ruling has to go to Kamilla Cardoso with Chicago Sky. I felt for Kamilla when she got injured in her preseason, messing up her shoulder, having to sit out, the first, 5-6 games for Chicago Sky. That injuries can be daunting on your mental, obviously on your physical. It can be challenging. And she had her first game back on Saturday against the Indiana Fever. And even though the Chicago Sky didn't win that game, Kamilla went out and just had a great debut in the WNBA. I think she put up 11 points, 6 rebounds, and she only played like a little bit under 20 minutes. The writing is on the wall, honestly. Her and Angel playing together, Angel dominating on the offensive boards, Kamilla dominating. You can't teach 6'7". I think she had an outstanding debut with the minutes that she was given. I'm sitting at home being like, can you put her back in? Because they really had no answer for her. It's scary hours over at the Chicago Sky. Again, they didn't end up winning that game against Indiana, but I think they definitely made large strides that they can build off of. Again, this was her first game back. I know she had jitters. I know she was a little nervous. It's the WNBA. It's your first game. But I think she came out and she had a great showing and a lot to be proud of. So that's why I ultimately had to give her the rookie ruling of the week. Now that we've touched on the rookies, let's talk about the players who did justice this week. Starting with A'ja Wilson. Even though the Las Vegas Aces end up dropping that game to Atlanta, I sat at home and I said there's no way that I cannot pick A'ja as the player doing justice this week, honestly. The Las Vegas Aces played the Minnesota Lynx, and going to that game, obviously the Minnesota is at the top of the league, so we're thinking it's going to be neck and neck. They had no answer for A'ja. She was just in a different different realm, a different mindset. Like right now, it feels like it's A'ja Wilson and everybody else. We didn't think she could get even better from last year. Maybe we did. We thought she could get better from last year, but we didn't even know what that would look like. Right now, nobody is touching A'ja Wilson. She is in a league of her own right now. Like she, right now, is the best player in the WNBA, hands down. I don't care. Argue with your mama. My sister is hunting down, sending shots into the stands. Like she is relentless. She is relentless on the offensive end. She's relentless on the defensive end, and literally just gets better. She's just gets better with time. The girl is like fine wine, honestly. She just continues to put up crazy numbers every single 29 points and 15 rebounds. I'm in awe of just how she continues to elevate her game every single year. And yeah, no one's touching A'ja Wilson. So she easily is the player doing justice. And then the other player who I felt did justice this week is Bree Jones with the Connecticut Sun. Now, as somebody who also tore their Achilles, I have a soft spot for that recovery. And right now, Bree is currently on minute restrictions, but man, I know the Connecticut Sun is so excited to have her back. And with each game, you see her get a little bit closer to being her full self. Now, Bree in her career has snagged 6th Player of the Year. She snagged Most Improved Player, and you definitely with each game can see why she was able to bring in those accolades, because she is a force to be reckoned with. I'm excited. Connecticut right now is the only team who is still undefeated, and a large portion of that I believe has to do with Bree Jones. In their game that came down to the wire against Dallas, she ended up putting away 22 points. I think she was 10 for 14 from the field. And again, she's not even fully healthy right now. She's not even, playing at her full capacity right now. So I can only imagine what she's going to look like when she is able to get there. So obviously, as you can see, a little bit different wardrobe. We're in a different day. Basically, I had to film this in 2 parts as we had a handful of games that went down on Sunday. I do my filming on Saturday and want to make sure that I was giving an accurate depiction of the standings and the games and kind of everything that went down. So what were the big game storylines that took place this week? Well, kudos to the Indiana Fever. They were able to finally get their first win. And not only did they get their first win, they were able to snag 2 of them. Then we had the Atlanta Dream, who ended up upsetting the Las Vegas Aces. That was not on my bingo card. The Connecticut Sun remains the only undefeated team in the league. But I think the biggest news that took place when it comes to games is that the Commissioner's Cup started this weekend. So if you're unfamiliar with what the Commissioner's Cup is, do not fret. I'm here to fill you in. So basically, the Commissioner's Cup is an in-season tournament with all the teams. If you aren't aware, the WNBA is broken up in the East and the West. And basically, with the Commissioner's Cup, we only have 12 teams. So again, 6 and 6. The Commissioner's Cup, each team will play everyone in their conference once. You will play every team in your conference in over a 2-week span, and from there the team with the best record in the East and the best record in the West will come together and play each other in the championship game, and the winning team will take home a $500,000 prize pool. But with everything that went down this week, all the great games, all the great basketball across the league, the Commissioner's Cup starting, what team is my final review? And after thinking about it and looking at, who won, everybody feels like everybody took an L except the Connecticut Sun. But Connecticut was my team of the week last week, so I didn't feel it was right to make it my team of the week this week. So kind of looked at who has a lot of momentum right now, who found their feeding this week. And when I did that, I came up with the conclusion, the Seattle Storm. Right now, Seattle is on a 4-game winning streak. Now, it is important to note that their 4 wins that they did get last week were was against Indiana, the Chicago Sky, and Washington. So it wasn't as if they were playing like the best teams in the league and the heavy hitters. They were kind of playing, teams that are extremely young and extremely youthful. But I think this gave them kind of a little confidence build, kind of gave them opportunity to get their chemistry, continue to build their chemistry, continue to play each other. And I'm excited to see them continue to build on that success. It's nice to see that their core is gelling together. Skylar Diggins had a big game. I'm becoming a real big fan of Easy Magbagor. And then, Jewel Lloyd is just a freak of nature herself. Right now, they're sitting at 5-3, and then going to this week, they do have some big games on their schedule. So exciting to see what they're able to do with those. Just like that, guys, it's a wrap on Justice's Verdicts and Views. This week, as we go into week 5, I encourage you just to take a deep breath, especially with the media and social media and trolls and just all of that. It's so easy to get wrapped up in the conversation and the narratives and maybe some of the negative connotations associated with the WNBA. But at the root of it, I encourage you not to forget about how special this league is and how special these players are and how enjoyable these games are. Each game is competitive. There is something phenomenal happening in this league, something phenomenal happening with these women, and there's so much to be celebrated. So I encourage you not to get wrapped up with the negative narratives, with the negative conversations, people trying to, again, bring down the league. And I encourage us to focus on the good that is happening, because there is so much good. Again, I'm excited for week 5. There's so many good games to tap into. There's so many exciting players to watch. I encourage you to follow me on TikTok throughout the week to find short videos, conversations that are happening through the week. And then always remember to tap into YouTube and catch up on Justice's Verdicts and Views as we talk about everything that went down throughout the week. So again, I'm just excited that you guys are here. I'm excited that we have built this little community. I'm excited as we continue to grow. Again, my name is Justice, and I'm just excited that it is just us growing the game.